Hey everyone! This time we read Tempest by Judd Ruggill and Ken Mcallister. So this book is from the Landmark video game series, which was published by the University of Michigan. Now, when you think of a Landmark video game, Tempest is not one of those games that I would think about. Unfortunately, they spend most of the book trying to justify the fact that Tempest is a Landmark video game, and it kind of falls flat for me, to be perfectly honest. And in all honesty, the book kind of seems to forget that it's talking about Tempest for a while, and most of that's really because there's not a whole lot to say about the game. It feels like they were really trying to stretch this book to 100 pages, and they didn't really quite make it there. I really got the impression that both authors were trying to convince themselves more than the audience that Tempest was the game that they should be writing about. And I, I just don't see it, unfortunately. Uh, this is just a book that I really did not like. As I mentioned, Tempest was a very odd choice for the Landmark video games. It just seems very weird and out of place. It's not even the David Toyer game I would have chosen for this series. And it kind of feels like just from reading it feels like they regretted their choice, and they probably would rather have been talking about Missile Command. That would have been a much better choice for this series. Or they could have gone with any of the other arcade shooters. I was kind of surprised they didn't go with something like Space Invaders. That would have been better than, Tempest. Or they could have picked any other game that might have given them like a little bit more to talk about. Especially since Tempest is just there's just not much to say. They even say in here there's no story in Tempest. You're just a ship moving around a space tube, shooting things that are coming up at you. They dedicate a chunk of this book to talking about the context of the time that Tempest was made. And even from reading the context, I kept thinking, this sounds like you should have been writing about Missile Command. And I'm sorry to go back to that again, but that's probably the game they should have chosen for this instead of Tempest. And as you go into the other books in the series, there are a total of 4 of them. Tempest really stands out amongst them because it doesn't fit in at all. The other books in the series that we'll talk about are Silent Hill. They combine Riven and Mist into one book, and Doom. Those 3 games, yes, you can say these are Landmark video games. Doom helped to forge the first-person shooter genre, make it, more popular. Silent Hill is honestly, it's one of the best survival horror games. It did not invent the genre. It's not even the one that's still going, as Resident Evil is, but it's one of those games that really helped elevate the genre. And then Tempest and Riven, they're iconic adventure games, which they definitely have a place in video game history. You look at Tempest and you're kind of like, well, this was fun for like the year and a half that it was in the arcades, but it wasn't the most popular arcade at the time. It wasn't the most popular shooter at the time. It's not even like the most memorable game that David Toyer made. It feels very weird, and it doesn't feel like this should have been made into a book. Like, Tempest should have been part of a book that was more about something else. This just was. I was really struggling to figure out why this book existed, and it's kind of sounded like from what the authors were writing, it sounded like they were struggling with why they were writing this book. There is a lot of good information in this book, even if some of it was it just kind of felt out of place. I think the part on clones and sequels was the most interesting, just because I didn't know there were that many, different things revolving around Tempest and that sort of thing. I knew about all the sequels, I just didn't know that much about them. And there's not really too much to really know about it, but it was kind of cool to read those. A good third of this book is the appendix, like the appendices. Uh, it just really feels like they were trying to pad the book out to make it, to make it into an actual book. And it just feels very strange to me. I don't want to keep saying the same things, but everything about this book just felt off to me, and it felt very odd. So anyway, guys, that's going to wrap it up. I know this was kind of a weird episode. I don't like doing episodes where I just hate the book, so yeah, I skipped over a lot of the criticism. It's also a pretty short book, so there's not really a whole lot to say. So, yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below, and have a great day, everybody.